Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another session of Sree's Daily Global COVID-19 Call. My name is Sree Sreenivasan, and I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at the Stony Brook School of Journalism. I am honored that you would be with us here today. Please find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and you can share this conversation with your family and friends. People around the world will be joining us. Tell us where you're watching from. Tell us how your Saturday is going. We're here on Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and we're just so pleased that people can join us. This is show 37. That means New York has been on lockdown for 37 days, and I've been on the air for 37 straight days doing this show. We've had some fantastic shows in recent days. I want to show you a couple of them so you know what we've been doing. We had a session just yesterday on U.S. immigration issues. And we had a session talking about what to learn from Asia with our friends at the University of Hong Kong. We had a session on health crisis reporting. We had a session on a view from Sri Lanka and what's happening there. All of these shows. We had a show on Empty New York, a photographer, journalist, poet, and book author, and bike messenger. All that in the same person, Kurt Boone, showing us amazing photographs of Empty New York. All of those are shows we've had in just this week, and we're so delighted to bring you today's show, which is all about children's book authors. They're going to read, they're going to talk, they're going to have some fun, they're going to answer your questions. We're going to laugh a little, we might cry a little, but if we don't laugh, all we'll do is cry. We're going to be joined by Alan Katz. He's at Alan Katz Books, Emmy-nominated comedy writer and children's book author. Dan Gutman will be joining us at Dan Gutman Books, author of My Weird School series. Nancy Krulik will be here. Nancy Krulik, author of the Princess Pulverizer series. And Peter Lerangis will be with us, author of Throwback, the Max Tilt series, and Seven Wonders. The producers of the show are Rose Horowitz and Vandana Menon. They're both live tweeting as well, at Rose Horowitz 31, at Vandana_Menon. We're so pleased to have you all with us. We want to pay some bills, so let me thank our sponsor, FrontlineFoodTrucks.com. FrontlineFoodTrucks.com. Go make a donation right now if you can, please. You will be supporting food truck workers who are feeding NYU Langone and other hospital frontline staff, and you'll be supporting our small show here. Foods donated by La Colombe, Sweet Green, Chobani, as well as Kind Bar and Blue Bottle Coffee. And even this ad was donated by an anonymous third-party donor. We are so grateful. Please go to Frontline Food Trucks today and make a donation. No matter how small, it will make a difference. And if you'd like to sponsor this show, it's so easy. Look at our rates. Maybe you don't have something you want to promote, but maybe you have a book you want to promote, or a friend's small business, a nonprofit, or you want to send a birthday greeting or make a marriage proposal. All of that you can do on our show. We would love to have you. Email me, sree@sree.net, SREE@SREE.net. And finally, I want to tell you what we have coming up in the next couple of days. Tomorrow, we have the professor who taught two of the largest classes in Harvard history. Professor Tal Ben-Shahar will be joining us. He's the co-founder of the Happiness Studies Academy, and he will be on our Sunday Night Positivity show every Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern, Sunday Night Positivity with Tal Ben-Shahar. We're so excited to have him here with us. And on Monday, we'll be launching my series, Work on Something, where we want you to work on some, or either we want you to launch, relaunch, or improve your digital efforts. This episode, this is a good time to up or start your Twitter game. You will learn how to listen smarter and how to post better. All levels welcome. Marcy Alberher will be joining us. She's a former New York Times career columnist. And Susan McPherson will be joining us as well. And she's the host of the brand new show, The McPherson Memo. We're looking for speakers. We're looking for guests. We're looking for sponsors. Please let us know. We want to collaborate. We want to do big things. 37 days in a row, and we're going to keep going. Let me bring on immediately. Here is Alan. Please say hi. Hi, Alan Katz. How are you?
How are you? Good to see you.
Thank you for being here. You are part of our family because you have a connection to one of our producers.
I do. My wife, Rose Horowitz, you mentioned her a little while ago, is producing with you. And I was delighted when she mentioned the possibility of being on with some of my friends. You know, the children's book industry right now, so many children's book writers and illustrators are jumping onto social media. Friends like Nick Brule is doing How to Draw a Bad Kitty. He's also reading his Bad Kitty books. Lauren Tarshish, who does the I Survived series, is on YouTube with a read along every day. There's Operation Read Aloud. There's so many people, and to have the opportunity to jump on and speak with you with a few of my really good friends who are creative people, kind people, and just wonderful people is a joy.
And these are such famous authors are going to be joining us. We love that. Our hearts go out to all authors because this is a time when they love being with their readers, going into book readings. Especially children's authors are so interactive with kids, and now they're getting to do that online, but it's not quite the same thing. We're going to be joined very shortly by Dan Gutman, Nancy Krulik, and Peter Lerangis. Folks, you know somebody in the world who has children who would love this show. Even if you don't have kids, you'll love it. But if you have kids, please tell them to join us. Please tag your friends. Please hit share right now so your family and friends around the world can join us. Alan, where are you? How are you?
In Connecticut, in New Haven County, Connecticut, where we live. I'm fine. You know, we're fine. The family's here, and we're treating each other well. And you know, this show is a good excuse to get off the couch. You can see my hair has taken a real beating. It's usually shaped in a way that is not offending anybody, but doing the best I can. We're you know, our daughter is a speech pathologist, and she's teaching and giving lessons and working with the faculty daily. Our son works with Senator Chris Murphy, our Connecticut senator. He's working from home. Everybody's doing what they do. They're just doing it from home. Our college students are learning from here. And our son David, who is a theater major, is singing and dancing for his teachers in the basement or the garage to get his coursework done. So we're doing what we do. And you know, as a writer, I'm usually home anyway. I don't, except when I do school visits. You mentioned that. I think the three of us that you're talking to today, the four of us, I should say, are all very busy, active in the schools, visiting schools. I've personally had about 15 visits canceled between now and June, but we'll make them up.
Yeah, well, we will. And I love your attitude. And Dory's talking about my disposition, but I like yours, Alan, as well. And Rose says, guess who's joining? And so excited to see this COVID-19 call show. Rose Horowitz, who is married to Alan Katz. It's great that she's here. Our friend Renee Edelman is here. And Rose is live tweeting at Rose Horowitz 31. And the hashtag for the show is Sree COVID-19 Call, worst hashtag in history, but we're stuck with it because it's been used millions of times. Sree COVID-19 Call, please do watch. Dory is watching, says, Manhattan is a burial ground. I was so mad yesterday, I punched a metal paper towel dispenser. That is the situation here where we're the epicenter of the epicenter, it feels like, in New York. And as the president and others are talking about opening up the country, you're hearing responses like this. I knew I wouldn't hurt the metal, and it felt great. Just so mad. Lots to be mad about. Someone said we need righteous anger, and Rose is talking to Renee. Tell us where you're watching from, folks. Look at Clara from Turin, Italy. I've lost count of the number of lockdown days. We have it here. We're 37 days. Clara's been on my show twice from Turin, and each time she has been so insightful in helping us understand. Everyone who's watching, please tag your friends. Someone in the world would benefit from this conversation that we're going to have with three amazing authors. Please tag your friends. Please hit share. We're live on Facebook, live on Twitter, live on YouTube, live on LinkedIn. And so there's no excuse. You can't escape us. We want you to come in. And Clara says she's not going to miss Monday's Sree COVID-19 call because it looks awesome. Jonathan's watching from the Lower East, or from the East Village, and Paula's watching from Tallahassee. Thank you very much, Paula. Nadine Orenstein's watching. We talked about industries that have been disrupted. Nadine's the head of drawings and paintings, that wonderful section of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where I worked for 3 years as the Chief Digital Officer with wonderful partners like Nadine. And Nadine, I hope you will come on our show and talk about what's happening in the museum world. So important that people support their museums, whether they're large ones or small. They all need help. And Rose says it's been 30 years on May 6th. Where will we celebrate, Alan? In the next room, finally quarantined and all working. I guess she's ambushing you here. She's making you reveal your anniversary plans, Alan, in public. That's dangerous.
Yeah, no, I know. Chances are we're not getting a surprise party.
Okay. Yeah, you're all so close together.
Right.
Will we see the Katz kids? Very important question.
Oh, it's possible.
Yeah. Okay. And Jonathan's watching from the Union Square area of East Village. He and I have a date at the Nutella Cafe if it survives, and we can get there. We love Nutella. We love dining out with the great Jonathan Borstein. Pradnya is watching from Silver Spring. Thank you. Renee just tagged Shelley Goldberg, whose son Bob Goldberg is the president of the New York Food Trucks Association. So that was really cool. And Alan Katz is a master of kid satire. Many in the kidlit community revere his work, Going, Going, Gone, and other silly sports songs, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you so much.
Love that. Thank you.
Terry Ann Thompson watching from Vegas, a New Yorker to the core. The East Village was originally part of the Lower East Side, so you're not exactly wrong. And Smithin is watching from India. Hi, Smithin. Thank you for what you do at Pratham, one of the most important nonprofits in the world, and they're doing great work. SF Doug is watching from cloudy SF. And we have Cecilia watching from Harlem. So many people coming in. Carla is joining us from Cape Coral, Florida. Kalpana is watching us she's an author, not children's books though, from Saratoga. So great to have all of you here. Alan, talk a little bit about your understanding of what the books industry is going through and how children's books in particular are being affected. You talked a little bit about things like the school visits.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, a lot of independent bookstores are taking a real hit right now. It's always vital to support independent bookstores. Some are delivering. I know one here in Bethel, Connecticut is taking orders, and you can pick them up in front. Bird's Books, things like that. They're doing the best they can. We need our independent bookstores. As I said before, the children's community has been very active on social media, sharing their work. I have an activity book. I put up some pages daily a couple of weeks ago. I know Dan will talk about it, but he's been doing comprehensive readings online to tremendous acclaim and very welcome. His books are wildly popular. Peter and Nancy will talk about their involvement too, I'm sure. And just, authors are doing what they can to share their work at this time. It's a good thing. It's a good community. It's a tremendously giving community of authors and illustrators.
Thank you, Alan. We've got breaking news that we have somebody watching from the Katz family. Katz kids are on the couch eating nachos and watching.
That's a new couch. We don't want them eating nachos on the couch.
Okay, you can scold them from here. That'll be pretty good.
I like that.
Folks, please tag your friends. Please share this so that everybody can join. We are so grateful to these authors for being here. We have a great lineup, all-star cast of kids authors. Alan Katz is here. Dan Gutman will be here. Nancy Krulik will be here, and Peter Lerangis. We're so grateful to all of you for being here. Please tag your friends. Please hit share. If you are watching and haven't been able to share yet, or you're trying to figure it out, here's what you do. You go on the phone, you find me on Facebook, and you'll see, if you search my name, you'll find that I am on here with a beard. Let's see here. You'll see that I have a beard and a yellow suit on. That's what I look like. And please friend me. And more importantly, find the talk that I'm giving right now. We're live right now. Just scroll down and you'll see it right there, right? And then you hit the share button and then hit share, say I'm on or I'm watching this, and then you hit share now. So that's what I'd love for you to do and get the word out, because we have all these great speakers. So anyone with kids should be here. Anyone who's ever been a kid should be here. And we love having you all here with us. Let's just go through a couple more comments. Alicia Marie is watching live from windy but sunny Grand Rapids, Michigan. And people are tagging their friends. Pradnya just tagged Pooja. Sharon just tagged Terry. We love this. Sharon, tag Vanessa. Everybody do this, please. Look at what Kalpana is doing. Tag your friends. This will be a great way for them to join us and learn from everything we're doing here together. All right. Shall we bring in, Alan, a couple of more people before we do one more thing? Tell us about your own work. Tell us your story, how you got where you have, and your advice to people who want to write kids' books.
Sure. Well, my advice to people who want to write kids' books is there are enough kids authors. We don't need the competition. No, I'm kidding. This is a great time to be sitting down with pen and paper or computer and getting your words out. You know, so many people, when I visit schools, so many teachers say, I want to write a book. And it's like, don't want to write a book, write a book. You know, if you wanted to be an astronaut, you'd need a rocket and special training. You already know the alphabet, start writing. That's my advice to everybody. I've been a writer my whole career, other than the time I spent working in my dad's children's shoe store on Long Island. Mostly comedy, a lot of television. I wrote for the Rosie O'Donnell Show for 5 years. I'm a 6-time daytime Emmy loser. And that led to some books, things like Take Me Out of the Bathtub and Other Silly Dilly Songs. They're song parodies that celebrates its 20th anniversary next year. I've done books with Ed Koren, who is a master illustrator from the New Yorker and the New York Times, a poetry collection called Oops. And my newest books are Awesome Achievers in Science and Awesome Achievers in Technology. They're stories of people who have invented things that kids use every day that you might not realize there's an interesting story behind. Things like Velcro, the remote control, Post-it notes, the microwave oven. And after I tell you the story, there's some humor related to how those inventions fit into my life. Certainly not making fun of the inventors, but rather heralding their achievements and having some fun with how they fit in my life. So a wide range of chapter books, story books, picture books, and I'm blessed to be in this community. And I can't wait for you to spend some time with my friends who are coming on.
Great. We're going to bring them on in just a second. Jonathan Rochelle, who invented Google Docs. You all know what Google Docs is. One of the most important inventions way before COVID-19 in terms of not just working from home, but working remotely. He's watching and he says, oh my God, Dan Gutman, I'll never forget how much fun it was to read his books with my kids. So Dan, isn't that amazing? We'll reread that comment on the air when Dan's with us. But just to say, this is the community we have, folks. If you're watching in a closed Facebook group, we won't be able to see your comments as easily and you can't share out. So make sure that you are giving permission to Facebook to connect with StreamYard, which is the tool we use to be live on all these platforms. So if you're in a closed Facebook group, you can stay there and comment, or you can connect, as I've said on the screen here. You can look at the instructions, or you can just pop out, find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, and hit share and connect. We have suddenly another 100 people have joined us. That's so exciting. Please tag, please share your friends and share with your friends and your enemies. Why should they miss out, right, Alan? They should be subjected to this as well.
If all my enemies jump on, we're going to blow the circuit.
Yay, that's good. I'll take it. I'll take it. We have so many great folks who are standing by to be on the call with us, and we know many people want to be authors themselves, so we'll take a lot of questions. So stand by, Dan. Stand by, Alan. I'm sorry. I'm going to bring on each of our guests. Let's say hi to Nancy Krulik. Hi, Nancy.
Hi. How are you guys?
Where are you? How are you?
Where am I? I live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, but I am currently in my childhood bedroom in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, because I ran out of town. So it's a little strange writing in your childhood bedroom. The other night, I caught myself sitting on the bed reading a book, listening to Led Zeppelin, and I started to feel like I was back in high school. So it was a little creepy, but I think we're doing okay here. There's a lot more room, and the dog has room to run in the yard. So we're hanging in, and I'm writing. I have 2 new book series coming out in 2021, so I've been crazed, and I had to get it done somewhere.
Just let's run through very quickly a few of your book titles so people know.
Okay. Luckily, my parents keep many, many copies of my books in my childhood bedroom. So I'm probably best known for the Katie Kazoo book series. It's been published all over the world. I've been very lucky in that I've been able to tour all over the world for Katie Kazoo. So that's what I'm most known for. And then there's the Magical Super Burp of George Brown Class Clown. And my most recent series is Princess Pulverizer. She's on a quest of kindness because she's a princess who wants to be a knight. And her father thinks she's a spoiled brat and she needs to learn to be kind before she can go off and become a knight at the Knights of the Scrown Table, which is square with rounded edges.
Square with rounded edges. That's sort of good.
Round table, yes.
Yeah, I like that, right? We tell people that you don't need to be round and square, right? You can fit different sizes, so I like that.
Nobody knows what it's like to be a square peg in a round hole or vice versa more than a children's book author.
Right. A reminder, we're on Twitter right now. Just find me on Twitter and hit share on the top video so that people can join us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We're on all the platforms and we're so grateful. Thank you, Nancy, for being here. Stick around. We're going to bring in Peter Lerangis is going to be here. Hi, Peter.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Where are you? How are you?
Where am I? Where am I? Oh, I'm in New York. This is my office, which is one floor above my apartment. I work in a rented office above my apartment so that I can run away from home and nobody will know.
Which part of the world are you in?
Good question. I'm in New York City on the Upper West Side.
Nice. We're on 96th and Broadway, and we're hunkered down.
I'm on 96th also.
Oh, nice. Okay, so you folks notice how he's.
I could have done this shouting out the window. Why did I
6 feet apart?
Why did I need a phone?
Folks, we gotta laugh, otherwise we'll cry all day. That is my theme, and we really appreciate Peter. Tell us the books you're known for and the books you're not known for also.
Well, the books that I'm not known for are the Bible and The Wind in the Willows and a few others. But the books that I am known for are the 39 Clues series, the 7 Wonders series, Max Tilt, Throwback. I tend to write a lot of adventure novels. And as a matter of fact, I just finished writing the last book of a trilogy this morning at 3 a.m. So it's very early for me right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wait. I just want to share something just really, really exciting. I had breakfast. No, I got a copy of my second book in the Throwback series just now, just as I came into my office. I opened up a box, and so you are going to be the very first person besides me and probably my editor, but maybe not, because he's home and not in the office, to see the cover of the book. Can I show it to you?
Yes, please.
All right. This is the second book of the Throwback series, and as you can see, it's called The Chaos Loop. So
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So I'm real. It's funny. I've written so many books, and I know that Alan and Nancy and Dan can agree with me that even after all these years, when you see one, when you see it, when you smell it, when you see it on a shelf, it's so exciting. Even now, I've been doing this for 30 years, and still, there's something just magical about it.
Thank you, and thank you, Peter, for being here. Folks, follow at Nancy Krulik, at Peter Lerangis, at Alan Katz Books, and I think we're now ready to bring on our final guest for the show, Dan Gutman. He is at Dan Gutman Books. Hi, Dan.
How's it going, Sree? How you doing?
Thank you so much for being here. How are you? Where are you? You know the drill.
First, I have to ask you a question. Where is the Nutella Cafe?
Yes, the most important question. And how do we get there?
I gotta go there.
Yeah, how do we get to there? That line from the 30 Rock series where Liz Lemon says, "I want to go to there." So I do want to go to there, and this is one of the many things we took for granted, right? My friend Jonathan kept saying, "Let's go to the Nutella Cafe," and I said, "We'll get there, and now look at the situation we're in. It's somewhere downtown. I'm one of those Upper West Siders who anything south of 90th Street is downtown for me. I used to work at Columbia for 20 years and live on the Columbia campus. So 96th Street used to be downtown. Now 90th Street is downtown.
Okay, I got to go there because I love Nutella.
Yeah, who does it?
In answer to your question, I'm actually like 9 blocks north of you guys, I live at 104th Street, right across the street from Central Park in New York City all the time.
Wow.
And we are surviving. My daughter is living with us temporarily with my wife and I. And, she works remotely. She works at NYU. She also studies at NYU. And we're just kind of like, we work in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we take a walk in the park. And we're just kind of like coping with this new reality. But it's just so strange, this whole experience that we're all having right now,
Yeah. We brought you this comment from Jonathan Rochelle, who is a co-creator of Google Docs, which I'm sure you know well. And he says, "Oh my God, Dan Gutman, I'll never forget how much fun it was to read his books to my kids."
Thank you. That's nice to hear. I always love to hear that.
And let's see if we're getting lots of questions in. So we're going to jump into a couple of questions. Here's a question from India. Smithin Brid says, "What is your opinion on digital books for kids?" Let's start with Nancy, and then we'll go around. Digital books versus paper books. Let's start with
Nancy. Anything that gets kids reading, I don't care what it is. I remember every Sunday when I was a kid, my father would take me to buy a comic book. And that was what I read on that Sunday. I think any format that gets a kid reading and gets them appreciating literature or just appreciating reading is great. I have no problem with any format.
That's great. Let's go to Peter. Peter, go ahead.
Digital books are great. I think, the thing is, for picture books for younger kids, I would imagine that maybe paper books are better, only because the child can actually touch it and savor the images better, right? If it's on paper, maybe I'd prefer paper for that, but reading is reading, and digital books are reading too. So go for it.
Excellent. Alan, what do you say?
Yeah, I hate to agree with Peter, but I do agree with Nancy. Digital is great. I mean, I mostly read on digital because I have trouble with my left hand, so it's hard to turn the pages. But a digital book to me is a good friend. I have done pop-up books that would suffer if they were digital, but absolutely. By the way, I do need to mention that in addition to being a top author, Peter is a former Broadway star. He was a musical comedy performer, and we would be remiss if we didn't ask him about that.
All right. Well, yeah, we'll get to that. Thank you for telling us about that. Dan, your thoughts on digital books?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the rest of us, I do a lot of school visits, and I usually have lunch with a group of kids. And I always sit around the table and I say to the kids, so how many of you have read a book off of a Kindle, Nook, iPad, or other electronic reader? And, all the hands go up. And I say, do you prefer to read off of the page or to read off of the screen? And invariably, almost every single kid will say, I prefer to read the book. I want to hold the book. I want to smell the book. And, a few years back, we all thought like books were going to die and everything was going to go digital. But I think kids prefer reading books. And if they're going to read books, then I guess books are going to be around for another century or two.
That is very optimistic, and I'm so glad to hear that. Let's look at some of the comments. People are tagging their friends. Alicia Marie says, my 4th grade teacher tells me he wrote a children's book in the last month and a friend of his illustrated it. It's now looking for a literary agent and publisher. I'm sure we'll get questions about that. Renee's talking to Rose. Lynn is tagging Pat. Everybody should be doing this. Anur says, hey, we have somebody watching from Brazil. That's awesome. There's someone watching from India. Auntie M says she friends of Alan. There's the hashtag, which is just so great. Stefan says, hi Nancy, hi Alan. Alan, we miss you and Rose. My son and mom and I had such a beautiful time together with you last summer. Thinking of you all. Glenn says, hi Peter Lerangis from dysfunctional Washington, D.C. Jonathan tells us where the Nutella cafes, University and 11th in old New York City.
I'm making a note of that.
Yeah, exactly. There is a Nutella cafe in Chicago. I'd love to go there. Did you know there's an International Nutella Day? No. Isn't every day International Nutella Day? When is it? Is a good question.
We are veering off the track here.
Yes, we are. Nutella makes that happen. Alyssa Katz says, I love both Seven Wonders and the Genius Files. Thanks to both of you. And Alicia Marie says, don't remember, but I remember putting it in my recurring calendar. Let's Google it. And here are more suggestions. 13th Street and University Place, just south of Union Square. Smithin says, thank you for all your straightforward answers to the question. And Mick says, we love books in print. A librarian's watching from Florida. This is our chance to give a shout out to librarians. Alan, lead us, and we'll each go around and talk about librarians.
Librarians are wonderful people. Listen, when we do school visits, they're the ones who bring our books our books in the kids' hands. And I consider I've actually dedicated some books to librarians whom I met, and recently named a character in one of my upcoming books after a librarian. So all good. I do want to ask why the person whose last name was Katz made a comment liking Dan and Peter's books and not mine. Doesn't really track, but let her read what she wants. I can't fight it from here.
Let's go to Nancy. Your thoughts on librarians?
Oh, on librarians? Well, first of all, let me just say I've had some of my wildest evenings with librarians. Librarians are fantastic. They are the ones that introduce kids to reading. They know every kid in their school, particularly school librarians. They find books that will interest them, that will bring them in. Because kids may say they don't like reading, but that's not true. They just haven't found the right book yet. And it's the librarian's job, and I think their honor to find that right book for every kid. So thank you, librarians, not just as a children's book writer, but as a human being. Thank you for making kids love reading.
That is great. Let's go to Peter.
Librarians. One thing that nobody really knows or that nobody really talks about is that librarians are the funniest people of anyone. I have never met a librarian that hasn't been riotously funny. And usually for me, I know I'm judgmental, but I connect being funny, smart, and I think librarians are about the smartest people around. They know how to talk to kids, they know how to reach kids with reading material that matches who they are. The kind of stereotype of the thick glasses and the bookwormish personality is like the farthest thing from the truth. Librarians really connect with everything. They're not only smart, but they go into the profession not to make money, but because they are warm people who want to share knowledge and want to share the love of life through words. And so they're our heroes as far as I'm concerned.
I love that, and I hope Crystal is listening and tagging her librarian friends. She just got love from all these great authors, and she's about to get some more from Dan Gutman.
Just ditto what everybody else said, and I'll just say that if it weren't for librarians, none of us would be here. We'd have to get real jobs. And who needs that?
Yeah, who needs that? Let's see. Rose is thanking Stefan. We loved having you and Wendy and your son over. Mick says kids can remember what they read better if they have a physical book, and that seems to be what most kids are saying. And then Susan says, my kids love Dan's books. Thanks so much for doing the quarantine read alouds. Are any of you on a schedule with these, or do you just do them when you have time? Dan, do you want to tell us about your read alouds?
Yeah. When this whole thing started, like 5 weeks ago, I kept getting emails from librarians saying, may I have permission to read some of your books for my kids who are stuck at home? And I didn't even realize you needed to ask permission. So I just said, sure, do whatever you want. And then it occurred to me that, hey, I could do read alouds myself on Facebook Live. So every weekday at 2 o'clock East Coast time, I go on my Facebook fan page and I read a chapter or 2 chapters of one of my weird school books, like Miss Blake is a flake, or Dr. Snow has to go, or Miss Hall is a goofball. And I start on Monday. I do 2 chapters a day, and I finish the book on Friday. So we've gone through 5 books already, and I'm just going to keep doing it until the kids go back to school.
Thank you for doing that. That is so awesome. And what would we do if we couldn't rhyme our titles?
Yeah. What would we do if we didn't have Rhyme Zone or the other websites that help us with rhymes? And what would we do if Dr. Seuss hadn't come before all of us, right?
Right.
Danny,
Yes,
are you working on Mr. Green as Quarantine?
Oh, that's a good idea. Everyone's writing it down. Who can publish that first?
I'm stealing that idea, Alan.
Dan, my challenge to you is to think of a title that rhymes with my last name and Sree's last name.
There you go.
That's like orange and silver. Silver, orange. Orange is a word that has no rhyme, right?
That's right. That's right. All right.
Although kids have told me door hinge.
Door hinge.
Yeah.
That's stretching it, I think.
Alicia Marie says, I saw some digital picture books that are designed specifically to zoom into photos ad infinitum. Oh God, this is not a word you say out loud every day. Leading into new worlds and new imagery constructs. Can't remember author right now. Saw it in the Grand Rapids Art Museum. So that's nice. Melissa Ann says, love from a middle school English teacher and mother in New Jersey. Thank you, middle school English teacher and mother in New Jersey. Terry Ann Thompson says, my first book was a nonfiction book for children called Biz Kids Guide to Success, published in '92 by Barron's. Can you believe Barron's would do that? That is awesome. What a great thing for Terry to share with us. And Alyssa says, any new Genius Files in the works? Hudson would like to know.
That's me. No, the Genius File series is over. I did 5 books, and this family started in California, and they drove all the way across the country to Washington, D.C., and they drove all the way back again. It took me 5 books to write it, and it's done. They made a complete circle, and it's over. Sorry.
I'm actually writing a Genius Files book now.
I appreciate that.
I have nothing to do.
Let's see. Tina says, both Alan Katz and Dan Gutman came to my kids' school in the past 2 years, and they were wonderful. We've ordered many of their books. My kids love to hold a book in their hands. We love that.
Which one? Wait till you hear Nancy and me.
Yeah, exactly. We want everybody to. We want everybody to be invited. My teenage kids prefer books to ebooks, but watch YouTube and TikTok more. Katie says, Mr. Gutman has been amazing during the pandemic. My kids have been nonstop reading because of its inspiration. Isn't that awesome? That is so cool to hear that. Christy says she's riding west on West Side Highway in Nebraska. Thank you if you're not driving. Please be safe, and we love that you're doing that. Mick says, best part of being a school librarian is finding the right book for each kid, especially when they come back for seconds. Sharon Flanagan says, thank you for giving me hope for the kids who tell me they don't like books or reading. I give lots of books as gifts. Now, these folks will not mind if you gave their books as gifts. Absolutely not. Let's tell everybody how to find each of you. Alan, start first. He's on Twitter, Alan Katz Books.
Right, and I also have a website, alankatzbooks.com, where you can find out about new books and exciting things. And I update that as often as I can, which is frequently.
Nice. And let's go to Nancy Krulik.
Yeah, you can find me at realnancykrulik.com. And that's really just because some kid did a book report that was nancykrulik.com. So I had to go with realnancykrulik.com. Wow. And I have everything from book trailers for all my series. I have listening activities in the forms of old-fashioned radio plays on there. And now I have a whole page of things for teachers, including classroom kits that they can send out to their kids to do for author studies, as well as every now and then I do recordings of writing prompts with things that I find around the house, just to give kids ideas of things that they can write while they're quarantined. So realnancykrulik.com, I'm there.
I like that. It's like real Donald J. Trump on Twitter.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Dan, over to you.
People can find me at my website, which is just dangutman.com, or my Facebook fan page, or Twitter and Instagram at Dan Gutman Books.
Thank you. And what can they find on your site, on those sites and things?
Well, actually, if you missed any of my read alouds that I do every day, you can go back and read them either on my website, or you can read them Facebook. They're still there after they're recorded.
That's just terrific. All right, let's go to Peter.
Well, I got to put in a plug for Dan because his read alouds are amazing. He reads beautifully. He's very funny, and they're great. You can find me when you get tired of Dan, at which you probably won't. So I shouldn't have said that. Peter, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on the street. I'm actually, if you ever see Sree, just head 2 blocks east and you'll find me because we live on the same street. And on my website, I have lots of information about my books, about my tours, which are all suspended, of course, for the time being. But eventually, when it starts up again, I do a lot of school visits. And I pretty much go to the schools immediately after Dan goes to them about a year later. And I don't know why that happens, but it just always happens. And I also have on my website a guest book. One of the things I tell kids when I do school visits, because they're so full of questions all the time, I tell them, look, we're not going to get to all your questions, but please go to my website because I have a guest book there. And on my guest book, I answer every single question that every kid asks me. So there's that too.
Thank you.
And peterlerangis.com. I got to say, because it's a very difficult name because my grandfather made it up. Nobody else has this name in the world, but it's Peter Lerangis, Lerangis, and it's pronounced Lerangis. And there you go.
Thank you. Peter, did you read the Patent Reader newspaper in Mount Kisco? Matt?
No. Should I? What's on it?
I'm not sure. We'll find out. She'll write back, I'm sure. And Crystal says, thank you all for sharing your thoughts on librarians. We love you all. Isn't that sweet? And here's a question from the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Nadine Orenstein. To Dan, we have a Honus Wagner card at the Metropolitan Museum in the Department of Drawings and Prints. I recommend to everybody, when the museum's back, please go see the amazing baseball card collection, one of the largest in the world. And I loved visiting that. And there is Honus Wagner, Honus and me. We have a big international audience. Dan, tell us about Honus Wagner and his place in baseball history and why he matters just beyond the game.
Well, he was a great player, of course, but he's more well known for that baseball card. It's the most valuable baseball card in the world. And so I wrote this story about this kid. He finds one of these cards and he discovers that he has the power to travel through time using a baseball card like a time machine. And he goes on an adventure with Honus Wagner back in 1909. And so I wrote the book, and it started the series. And now I discovered that, well, the kid can visit any baseball player at that time if he has this power. So he goes back on with these adventures, and there's 12 of them actually all together. They're fun to read if you're a baseball fan and if you're a history buff too.
That's great. Mick says, we watch every day, Dan. And Larry says, my kids 11, 8, and 4 loves Dan's books before this, but now they're falling in love with Dan too. He brings the stories alive, and now we all talk like Andrea now. And Robin says, my kids love the 2 p.m. read. And Alicia says, I love read alouds. My kids' school principal, Sibley Elementary, have been reading books and doing puppets with them every day. Great for homeschool. This is so great, folks. I'm having trouble keeping up with all the comments coming in. This is amazing. I hope each of the authors will go into my Facebook after this and comment. Please start a watch party so your friends and family can join us. We've got another 15 minutes or so with this wonderful crew of writers, authors, thinkers, doers. We're so grateful for all of you for being here and being part of our community. Alan, talk a little bit about your comedy work. It seems like most of the books that we're talking about here are written with a kind of a fun spirit. Is that what works in children's books? Is it harder to get more serious titles in, or how is that? And I'll ask each of the authors that as well.
Well, I'll tell you, it would be hard for me because everything I write tends to be on the funny side, and if it's not funny, it doesn't sell. But we all have many friends who don't write humor, but rather write incredible nonfiction or realistic fiction. There are so many great books out there that don't have one laugh line in there. And Peter, your books are entertaining, but they're not humorous per se, right? No, I mean that sincerely.
I try.
No, I mean, aren't your books more of an adventure than they are?
What a burn!
No.
They're adventures that attempt to be funny, Alan. They're full of jokes, Alan. They're very funny.
I haven't read Beyond the Cover. I'm sorry.
Millions of kids find them funny, Alan. You may not find them funny, but I mean, let's.
I wouldn't take that if I were you.
I wasn't trying to burn. Whereas Dan's books are out and out funny, and Nancy's books are out and out funny. I always got the sense that you write more adventure books, but I could be wrong, and someday I'll read one. I don't have the time right now. I'm sorry, I don't have any time to be reading any of your books, Peter.
Alan, they're not funny at all. They're very serious, and you shouldn't read them.
Give me one joke from one of your books. Give me a joke you've written. I'm in trouble.
Let's talk about Nutella.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Give me about 45 minutes.
Okay. Nancy, let's go to you. The boys are having their own fun. Let's talk over here.
What do you want to know?
I
don't eat Nutella.
No, you don't eat Nutella. Tell us what you're working on, and you said you've got 2 series.
I have 2 new series. Neither one has been announced right now, but they are both very, 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 very funny. One is a very young chapter book series, which I've never done before, so that's been quite interesting. And the other is a chapter book series that is more in line with the same number of pages and reading level as my previous work. They're all funny. What's interesting for me is whenever I start a new series is that I have to get into new characters in my head. And it isn't until about the 3rd book that I feel like it's all going smoothly. So I just turned in book 3 in one of the series. So now I'm on a good course. So the quarantine has been bad, but as a writer, and I think we'll all agree, we all work this way all the time. So I'm getting a lot of phone calls from people saying, how do you do this? I'm distracted all the time. I can't get any work done. And I'm actually find myself giving a lot of advice to people who work in offices these days.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Rose says, before Alan even knew Dan Gutman, our son read every book in the My Weird School series. Later, Dan even mentioned Nathan in one of his prefaces. Hilarious books. Glenn says, what about a Stable Genius series? And Cecilia says, what a great thing to do, Alan Katz. I wonder if there's a resource list of children's book authors reading their own books to share with teachers and parents. I don't know if somebody has that.
There are some. There's Operation Read Aloud. I know there's kidlit.tv, KIDLIT.tv. And there are, yeah.
Great. We have Peter's joined us. He was off trying to find something funny in his books, and now he is back. And he will reveal when the time comes what is funny in the books. Stefan says, Rose is blessed to have such a good-humored husband as Alan. And thanks for all you do for you here today, for making us laugh and feeling a lot better today. Our librarian is excited to receive a shout out from all the authors. Christy says, awesome. Thank you, Real Nancy. Writing is overlooked in school so often. Isn't that great? This is great stuff, says Fernando. Thank you so much. Folks, I do a show every day at a different time, but please come. 9 p.m. tomorrow is our positivity night, and the author of the professor who's taught 2 of the biggest classes in the history of Harvard University will be here at 9 p.m. tomorrow. So you don't want to miss that. 9 p.m. Eastern, positivity night. Tal Ben-Shahar will be here, and he's CEO and founder of the Happiness Studies Academy. How about that? Isn't that fun? And 2 of the largest classes in the history of Harvard University. And tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, I'm so pleased to tell you that my Sunday New York Times read along, I will be executive producer, and my executive producer will be guest host. Neil Parekh will be guest hosting when Judge Rosemary Aquilina will be here. You know her as the judge who presided over the 2018 USA Gymnastics sex abuse scandal and put Dr. Larry Nassar in prison for up to 176 years. Every Sunday, I read the New York Times out loud on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. 5 years now we've been doing that. And we had Harlan Coben on the other day. We have so many great folks coming up as well. So please stay tuned. We would love to have you. 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. Eastern every Sunday. We read the New York Times, and a doctor joins us to talk about medical issues and take your questions. And then at 9 p.m., we have Tal Ben-Shahar, and then 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Monday, work on something, Twitter tutorial, how to get better at Twitter. Either you're starting or you've been using it for many years. We'd love to have you. Here are some of the comments coming in. Let's see here. Terry says, no long out of print, but there are some used ones available on Amazon about her book. Love to hear about teachers and educators breaking out, says Fernando. Please tell us where you're watching from. Please tell us your thoughts about how you're feeling about reading, writing, etc. Sarah says, your guest book is such a good idea. How nice is that? Thank you. That's on Peter's guest book. He's doing that. And Fernando says, thank you, with a question mark. And Larry says, for the authors, was there a teacher or role model in your lives that inspired your work? So let's start with Peter, and then we'll go to Dan, Nancy, and then to Alan.
Yes, this is actually a shout out to Carol Reynolds Holt, who's my teacher in 6th grade. I wrote a poem, and she really liked it. And she really encouraged me to read. She would always recommend books that I always loved. She kind of had a real connection somehow with who I was as a kid. And one day, when she handed back a poem that I'd written, she said to me, and she actually wrote this on the back of the poem. She said, "Someday, you're going to be a famous author."
Wow.
And I'm going to be so proud. And for the rest of my life, I'm going to carry a copy of this poem around with me to know that that I taught you. And those words always stuck with me because, you know, that was 6th grade. You're 11 when you're in 6th grade. And then all of a sudden puberty hits and you lose confidence and you decide that you can't do it. And your ideas aren't good enough and you're not talented enough. And those words always kept me going. And when I first started doing school visits, her school was the first school I went to.
Awesome. What a great story. Tara says hi. She loves the story. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, and a great shout out to teachers. Let's go to Dan, folks. If you're watching and you have a friend in your life who's a teacher, please tag them so they can watch this in the recording. This will be recorded and available on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Please tag your friends. And here's Dan Gutman.
Oh, well, I'd love to say that there was this wonderful 3rd grade teacher who inspired me, but that wasn't the case, really. It didn't even cross my mind to start writing until I finished with college, actually. But I was always inspired by creative people. I remember my heroes growing up were like Thomas Edison, Picasso, the Wright brothers, and more than anybody else, the Beatles actually inspired my work. And even though I'm not a genius the way those people were, I always wanted to be creative in some small way like they were. And that's what inspires my work to this day.
Thank you. And by the way, Patricia's watching over on LinkedIn, and she says, this show gets better and better, thinking outside the box, pun intended. We love that. So thank you very much for joining us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. We love having all of you here. Let's go to Alan. Let's go to Nancy and then Alan. Sorry.
Well, I come from a long line of teachers. My grandmother was a teacher. My father was a teacher and then a college professor. My daughter is a teacher. They all influenced me, but it was my 4th grade teacher, Ms. Zuzek, who really had me reading and really got me writing. And she had a classroom where there were all these beanbag chairs, and you could like sit in the beanbag chair and read. And I think there was a comfort in that reading. And at one point, a very similar story to Peter's, I had written a story and she had said to me, you know, someday people are going to read what you write, the way you read their books, because I'm a voracious reader. And I thought she was crazy, but, you know, it worked out, and it's the truth. I think teachers have a remarkable ability to make kids feel so good about who they are that they carry that with them, even if you don't go into writing, even if you don't go into what the teacher thinks is your talent. Just the idea that somebody believes in you, I think, is something that never goes away. So teachers are so important.
Absolutely. I still remember Ms. Donovan in PS6 on the Upper East Side in Manhattan. She inspired me so much to she made us fall in love with the Met because she said, we're right next to the Met. You've got to go to the Met. And then I got to meet her again after 35 years. I found her, and she was supporting the Met as a retiree, which was amazing. Alan, over to you.
Yeah, no, I had one teacher, Mildred Feinsilver, at Francis Lewis High School in Queens, who said, you can do this, you can be a writer. And, you know, she did unfortunately say, no matter how successful you get, your books will never be as hilarious as Peter Lerangis's. But she and I stayed in touch the rest of her life. I dedicated a book series to her and sent it to her, and her son wrote to me and said she had died just as they received the book and didn't get to see it, but they did read it at the funeral, which was very touching and very important. Also, Sree, the other night, Rose read a poem from Marie Ponceau, who was a mentor and a lifelong friend of hers, teacher at Queens College. I had Marie also a few years earlier, and Marie absolutely hated me, hated my work, hated everything I wrote. But because Rose stayed in touch with her, I was in touch with her too. And I remember doing a reading at the West Side Y and read from Take Me Out of the Bathtub, and she came. And right afterwards, I made a beeline, and she heard the applause, and I said, can that be my final? Because I probably had gotten an incomplete in her class. So yeah, teachers are the best. Teacher, you know, if you're not a teacher, a librarian, or, you know, the comedic stylings of Peter Lerangis, what else is there?
Fernando says, I love educators breaking through beyond the classroom or library. And Fernando's watching us on Twitter and on Facebook, so he's multitasking. Thank you. Sandhya says, did you all dream of becoming children's authors, or did you discover this passion by accident? Would love to know your journeys. We've heard a little bit of some of those journeys, so if anybody wants to chime in now, you can as well. Nancy, do you want to?
I was an investigative reporting major. I was going to break the next Watergate and change the world. And I wound up writing about a boy who burps and a dragon who makes grilled cheese. So life took me to very strange places. So no, not at all. I had no idea I was going to write kids' books.
Okay, thank you. Peter, how about you?
I always knew I wanted to, even when I was a little kid, but I always thought I couldn't. So it got tucked away in the back of my mind. And actually, I graduated college with a degree in biochemistry, because I thought that would be more practical, and that was like fitting a square peg into a round hole. I knew that I wasn't going to be a good doctor. I just wasn't cut out for that. And I even, then afterwards, I figured, well, if I'm not going to be a doctor, I should become a lawyer. So I enrolled in law school too. So I kind of did a big, long journey. And after that, I spent 8 years in the theater. So I came back to writing after all of that, even though I knew I always wanted to do it at the beginning.
Great. This is, everybody's journey is different, right? We have so many questions coming in, folks. Fernando says, what about bilingual books? And are your books translated? Do the kind of humor that you all have, and some not so funny books, do they translate easily? Do you work with translators? How does that go? Who wants to talk about that?
I have a lot of translations. I have no idea if they've translated them correctly. I have no idea if the jokes work, but the books seem to be selling. I don't ever work with the translators. It wouldn't do me any good to even try. Okay. I just make sure my name is spelled correctly, and that's as close as I can get.
And as long as the money comes in, that's good.
That's right. As long as they spell it right on the check, I'm good.
Dan, do you have any thoughts about bilingual books or translated books? Or
same thing Nancy said. Some of my books have been translated into other languages. I've never met any of the translators. I don't know what they say, the books. Sometimes I'll be visiting a school and there'll be like a kid from Korea who can read Korean. I'll say, hey, what does this say? You know, and he'll read a sentence for me. But otherwise, I have no idea. I just am happy that they do it. And it's nice to think that kids all over the world are enjoying our work.
And that's one of the things I've always wondered about. Do you remember the Asterix comics that were so great? They're originally in French, and they're Belgian origin, French connection, and they're in English. They're hilarious, but the originals were in French. And I've always wondered about the translations. They must be funnier in the original. And a lot of your rhymes, for example, may not necessarily be obvious in another language. So I'm curious about that, and we should learn more. Auntie Tem says, Alan is blessed because he has a fabulous wife who's a producer on this show. Rose Horowitz 31, she's tweeting away, folks. Follow her. Mick says, blog, The Librarian Bookends has daily lists of authors reading out loud. That's awesome. And Rachel says, I love Dan Gutman books. And Rose has a direct question for Alan here. Are you throwing our anniversary party, or do I have to do all the work again?
No, these 4 people, Rose, they're going to be sending us gift packages. I know Peter's, the boxes behind Peter are full of balloons and cake and many funny things.
And Crystal says, you guys have been hilarious. Thanks for the laughs. It's really important. We have to laugh. Fernando's watching in LA. Thank you, Fernando. We'd love to have as many suggestions as you have for guest speakers. We want more authors, more writers, more readers to come on and be part of this. Renee says it's reassuring that children love printed books. And Barbara says, this was great. Always enjoy listening to authors. Peter, you and your agent did a wonderful presentation at the last SCBWI conference. Hope to see you all at some venue, maybe in the Brooklyn Book Festival. How
yes,
nice
I love the Brooklyn Book Festival.
Yeah.
One small correction though, that wasn't my agent, that was my editor, David Linker from HarperCollins.
Who's my editor too now.
Nice. We've given shout outs to all kinds of people, right? Librarians, authors. Let's give shout outs to your illustrators, because illustrators are so important, especially in children's books. So Nancy, we'll start with you, then Dan, and then Peter.
Yeah, I have lots of wonderful illustrators. I don't have any say in who I choose as an illustrator, and I don't usually see more than just the first round of sketches on a lot of my books. So it's kind of fun, because then when you get the books and you open them up and you see how the illustrator has interpreted what you were thinking, and very often they have nothing to do with one another. It's exciting and it's fun. I'm given a lot of freedom to write whatever I want, so I tend to want to give illustrators that same freedom.
That's great. Dan, how about you?
Yeah. I've had a bunch of illustrators, and I've only met one of them actually in my life, and it's the guy who does the My Weird School books, Jim Palat. He and I have been doing the series now for 16 years.
Wow.
We've done 70 books together, and we've only met once in person, actually. I was on a book tour. He lives in Arizona, and I live in New York. So I was on a book tour, and I was in Arizona, and we got to meet for the first and only time. But we work really well remotely by email and stuff like that. He's fantastic.
Jenny says, Mr. Gutman's readings, and especially his shout outs to his fans, have given our family something to look forward to every day. I can't thank him enough for the joy he's bringing us. How wonderful is that? Thank you so much. Rachel says her mom is a teacher. Fernando is tagging friends. Everybody, please do this. And he says, I think he says there's a bilingual festival. And I went to Francis Lewis also, and Ryan J. Junior High School. You are a landsman from the old hood.
I have to tell you, by the way, I'm celebrating, today is the 50th anniversary of my bar mitzvah.
Okay.
So throwing back to high school and all that.
It feels like yesterday.
It does.
You look the same, Alan.
I appreciate that.
This is great. I'm just looking to see who was it that went to school with you. Trying to find the names here. But anyway, we'll find those names and connect you. I know Rose will be able to find it. We have Russia Victory. So I don't know if that's an actual fan or someone just predicting what's going to happen in 2020. Let's see here. I've never seen Sree laugh so much. Well done, authors. Thank you, because otherwise we would be crying all the time. Hold on. Marie Ponceau never hated you. You just wrote parodies of Shakespeare instead of writing a critical analysis, and your work is included on Poetry Foundation website. So that makes you a poet. I think we're in the middle of something here, folks. Arlene says, can you tell us something about the impact of children's book author and illustrator Tommy DePaula on your work? Long live Strega Nona.
Tommy was one of the most creative, certainly, but one of the dearest people. Rose and I spent some time with him about a year and a half ago. And he never failed to make you feel like you were the most important person in his life. He was just a kind, giving, creative soul, and he's going to be terribly missed. He's just a legend.
Kavita says, I would love some books for my classroom. Kavita, tell us where you are. How does this work? Let me ask the authors. Are there programs for schools that don't have resources to get books? What can people do? It may not be your particular books, but How do people sign up that you know about? Anyone?
I know that publishers will do that. I'm not exactly sure what kind of programs there are. I know there are, but I know when I get requests for books personally, I mean, I donate a lot of books to an organization called Lisa Libraries, which then donates books to schools. So it does come from authors, but generally what happens is if people ask me for donations, I'll generally contact the publisher and see if I can get them to forward some books, because it's much easier that way, and they have access to many more books than we do. As authors, we generally get just a few copies of our own books, so it has to pretty much go through the publishers in order for it to be effective.
Yeah, we just want to note that publishers all over the world are having great financial difficulty at the moment, like other industries, and we're hoping that everybody kind of pulls through with everything that's going on. Sharon says you should listen to this and see about getting your children's book published. She's tagging somebody. Thanks for the laughs today. Fun. Children's librarians love you, all of you. Thank you for allowing us to share your books. This is so nice. I'm feeling so full. My heart's really full to hear all this. We love that book, Strega Nona. And I'm going to be an ESL teacher, says Kavita. Thank you. We need ESL.
Thank you.
And
can I just say one thing, Sree, if you don't mind? I just want to echo, I sort of want to bookend this with something that Alan began with, which I think is really, really important. And thank you, Alan, for mentioning it. And that is that independent bookstores especially are going through really, really, really hard times. And independent bookstores are really the backbone, I think, of literacy, especially for children in this country. And so if you can, and if you have one near you, or if you have access to one through the internet, which we all do, please, please, please consider supporting independent bookstores, because they need it. Every purchase means something.
Great, Peter. I just want to build on that. There was supposed to be a Bridgeport Book Festival here in Connecticut the end of May that Senator Chris Murphy was spearheading. And the goal was not only to boost literacy and to bring people to Bridgeport, but the initiative was to give every kid in Bridgeport and the surrounding areas at least one book. And that, of course, has been canceled due to the quarantine. But Senator Murphy did a fundraiser, and in association with R.J. Julia, a fantastic bookstore, independent bookstore in Madison, Connecticut, they have raised enough to give, I believe, I may be misspeaking, but I believe it's 4 books, one a week for 4 weeks, to every student in Bridgeport and the surrounding areas, $150,000 worth of books. And that is just so extraordinary. And I think other communities should get together and do something like that, because what a difference that's going to make. I mean, I've spoken at conferences where kids physically get their first book ever. I mean, it's hard to believe, but there are kids out there who don't own a book. And bravo to R.J. Julia, bravo to Senator Chris Murphy, and everybody involved in this initiative to bring $150,000 worth of books into their kids' hands right now.
I love it. Well, maybe we can get a shout out to a favorite independent bookstore or online store that you recommend, because not everybody knows where to go. The default is to go to the biggest sites in their countries, right? That's what people do. So if anybody wants to jump in, but look what Clara said. I just bought a couple of your books and send them to my nieces in Miami. Great time to introduce new books and spread the love of reading. Megan says, thank you. Megan says, Dan has really brought the love of reading into our home during this quarantine. Thanks, Dan. And Crystal says, independent bookstores are so important. And Crystal also said, books will help us through this difficult time. So this is so great. We could go on, but these guys have dinners to get to and life on a Saturday.
Nowhere to go.
Nowhere to go.
Absolutely nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Alan doesn't want to go back out because his whole family's out there.
What am I going to do? Clean nachos off the couch? That's about it.
Oh, I'm sure there are Law and Order reruns on somewhere.
That's true.
They're always here. We're getting some shout outs for bookstores, folks. Authors also tell us some, but people are posting. Elizabeth Samuels, Malaprops.
Yes, that's a great store.
And Crystal says Haslam's in St. Pete, Florida.
Yeah.
Book Fairies on Long Island sends books to those who can't get their own.
Yeah, I did a wonderful program with them a couple of years ago. They give books. They go into schools and every kid gets to go shopping in their book fair, and it's a wonderful thing to see if you get to work with Book Fairies.
That's awesome. Folks, I'm going to come to each of you for a final thought, and I'm also going to ask you all, not right now, but to hold up a copy of your book so we can take a nice screenshot. Maybe some people can take a selfie with you. That would be kind of fun. They can post. We're just so grateful to everybody for being here, for being part of this. I do want to show you folks what we've been doing on our side. In my company, we've been helping people with authors with their book launches. So if you know anybody who's launching a book and wants to have a virtual book party the way we did with author Marco Greenberg, which was a lot of fun, and we learned a lot doing this, how to do a book party. And we had the author and subject of his book were able to join us, which was really fun. And so if you know anybody who's interested in this kind of work, please just contact me, sree@sree.net. This is a virtual party that was supported by Hachette, and this is a book that came out April 12th. And so we had a lot of fun doing this. So do contact me, sree@sree.net, if you are interested in this kind of work. My team specializes in taking physical events and taking them virtual. Crystal says, I want to go to book fairies. And Sharon says, Big Blue Marble Bookstore in Philadelphia. Harvey's Tales in Geneva, Illinois. And Kavita says, thanks for the invite to Lodge. This is so wonderful. I'm so happy. We're going to ask each of the authors to first hold up a copy of their book so we can get that photograph in. So if everybody will do that. I'm going to take a screenshot. Okay, there we go. Hold on one second. I'm going to take myself off here so we'll fill their screen with that. Right. Thank you so much. That was so cool. And oh, look, Peter's just pretending to be frozen. I love that.
That is one funny book.
He is buffering. He clearly. Thanks for the lovely time. So each of you, please take your time. Give us a final thought, some wisdom, something funny, anything you'd like to do. You want to read, whatever you'd like. I'll give you each a couple of minutes. And whoever wants to go first, whoever has to go to the bathroom gets to go first, right? Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll just call on you, Peter. Why don't you start us off, please?
Such pressure. I'm not going to read because I only have 2 minutes, and my books are. So
3 minutes. It's okay. It's a. No. Go ahead. If whatever you'd like to do, Peter.
You know, it's a tough time right now. So many parents are home with their children, and so much patience is being tested. Read books, use books. Parents especially, read aloud, even if you don't think you're good at it. This is the thing that I run into all the time. Parents will say, well, you know, I'm not that good at reading books. It doesn't matter. You can read the books in a monotone. You can read the books using silly voices. You can read any way you want. Reading books aloud to children is an amazing way to communicate, an amazing way to convey information and empathy and storytelling. Everything that we do in all our lives is telling a story, and so use us to help you.
Awesome, Peter. Thank you. Peter can be found at peterlerangis.com, and we're so grateful that you spent some time with us. You're my neighbor. I hope we'll see you. We'll all get together on the Upper West Side when this is all over, if this is all over. So it will be. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for joining us. Let's go to Nancy. Nancy, you're next. Tell us everything.
Well, Peter pretty much said everything I wanted to say. So, but what I want to add is, if you have a chance to write, use this quarantine to write your thoughts. Use this quarantine to try your hand at writing a book. Use this time to write poetry. Reading is phenomenal. Reading will get us through, but you never know. You might be the next writer that's on a program like this. Hopefully not in quarantine. But I think this is a time to experiment with your own thoughts on paper or on a screen.
Thank you. And you can find Nancy Krulik at Nancy Krulik on Twitter, and she's realnancykrulik.com on the internet. You can find her, and she's got book trailers and all kinds of cool stuff. That's really great. Thank you, Nancy, for being here. Really grateful.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And let's go to Dan Gutman.
Hey, well, I'd really rather watch Peter and Alan fight some more, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I will read something. I'm going to read. from my newest book, Miss Blake is a Flake. And I'm going to read the beginning of the first chapter, which is titled, Cheese Doesn't Have Ears. Okay. Ready? My name is AJ, and I hate getting my picture taken. Why do we always have to say cheese when somebody takes our picture? What does cheese have to do with anything? I guess it might make sense if you were taking a picture of a piece of cheese. But why would anybody take a picture of cheese? And even if you were crazy enough to take pictures of cheese, why would you bother saying cheese out loud? The cheese can't hear you. Cheese doesn't have ears. That's it. You can read the rest on your own.
All right. And that's the book, Miss Blake is a Flake by Dan Gutman. You can find him at Dan Gutman Books. Thank you so much, Dan, for being here. You also read aloud Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live. So find his Facebook business page, his author fan page, and you can find him there. Thank you very much, Dan. Alan, over to you.
Well, sure. Since this is, the 412 days of April represent National Poetry Month, I can share a couple of poems from my book, Oops, which was illustrated by Ed Koren, and it's proof that Marie Ponceau wouldn't have liked my work. This poem is called Whoosh. The wind is blowing quite a breeze. The wind is blowing on my knees. The wind is blowing its spring dance. It tells me I forgot my pants. One more. I know. And what I do, by the way, I should tell you, when I do school visits, I show the first line of the poem because it's the first line of the first poem in the book. And I say, okay, the wind is blowing quite a breeze. I wrote that down because the wind was blowing quite a breeze. And I wrote it down, and I could have erased it if it didn't work out. And I say, anybody have a second line for that poem? And all the hands go up, and kids say, the wind is blowing quite a breeze. I'd really like a piece of cheese. Or the wind is blowing quite a breeze. It's so cold that I might freeze. And it turns it into many different poems. And I demonstrate that we all start in the same place and we go off in different directions. And that's what writing is. So I share that. One more poem that's from the follow-up to Oops. I think it's a very important poem in my life. It's called Shh. And it goes like this. Please don't bang or slam or buzz. And please, no loud bansheeing. Do not click and do not clunk. I'm automata peeing. Oh, Dan, put that down. I got to tell you, Dan was my kid's favorite author. Rose mentioned it before. I had a very big car accident about 8 years ago. Car flipped over. We were all very lucky to be safe. The car was demolished. And I got out of that car and the next day went to the Texas Library Association conference where I was supposed to go. Had a backache, but I flew anyway. Why did I go? Because my son wanted me to meet Dan Gutman.
Oh my God.
And from that day on, meeting Dan Gutman, my back still hurts. No, from that day on, Dan has been a cherished, wonderful, wonderful friend. He introduced me to Peter, who I understand writes hilarious books. And I'm very grateful for their friendship, and I'm very grateful to Nancy. We only met once, really, Nancy, right?
We did. We
at a
were
library.
at the library, and your son was the best performer out of every author there.
That's true. I did text him asking if he wanted to sing a song from my book, Take Me Out of the Bathtub, because they're song parodies. And he wrote back that he was on an assignment doing something else, so he couldn't. But he was there. That's right.
And Chris
Really
said that was a solid poem.
Chris, you have a wonderful sense of literacy.
And Alan, that was awesome. It's very windy in Chicago now. And Elizabeth sends us a nice smiley face. Folks, I'm so grateful. I do some wrap up here, so I'll let you all go. Thank you very much. If I can ever do it for all of you, please let me know. I'm Sree at sreenet. Thank you very much. We'll let our authors get going back to their day.
Thanks for filling the hour.
I like that. And look at this. I like big books, and I cannot lie. We had another one of our, we had a doctor, Marina Kurian, who is the president of the American College of Surgeons New York City chapter. She wore the same shirt on her show. So she and you have the same taste. That's awesome. We'll connect you guys at some point.
Mhm.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all.
Good luck, and thank you
you.
very much. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you all. Folks, thank you so much for watching. Wasn't that awesome? Please go out and support each of them. Buy their books. That's how you support them. We're so grateful to all of you. Rose says, thanks to all of you for your great conversation. Wonderful guests. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to do a little bit of wrap up here. I'm always grateful for people for tuning in and being here. Our next show is tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You will get to listen to Judge Aquilina, who is the judge who presided over the 2018 USA Gymnastics scandal and put Larry Nassar behind bars, 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have a doctor coming in to answer your medical questions. We've been doing the Sunday Times Read Along for 5 years. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn. Please join us. We would love to have you, 8:30 to 10. And then we have an epic evening of positivity. The 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Tal Ben-Shahar will be here. He taught 2 of the largest classes in Harvard history on philosophy and happiness. And he teaches folks how to be happy. So that's our positivity show, 9 p.m. Eastern, every single Sunday. Please be here. We want to thank our producers, Rose Horowitz and Vandana Menon. And on Monday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, Marcy Alberher, Susan McPherson, myself, maybe somebody from Twitter, we're going to talk about how to improve your Twitter game. This is part of my Work on Something series. We're going to have a show about Twitter. Then we're going to do one about podcasting. We're going to do one about all kinds of different skills because we want you to learn and work on something this particular season. We're so grateful to all of you for being here. Please do connect with me on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, on LinkedIn. Lori says that was fun. Thank you, Lori. Kavita says that was awesome. Elizabeth says thank you. That was amazing. Shaban says thank you. I'm so grateful. A definite high point in the series. Thank you so much, Jonathan. He's watched every single one of these. I'm so grateful to him for doing that. And I want to say to everyone who's watching that we are so grateful to our advertisers, our sponsors. Here is a third-party donor donated this ad so that we could support frontlinefoodtrucks.com and support the wonderful folks over at NYU Langone and other hospitals. Food has been donated by La Colombe, Sweet Green, Chobani, Blue Bottle Coffee, Kind Bars, and they wanted to make sure that the money goes directly to the food trucks and to help feed the NYU doctors and nurses and everybody else, that a third party paid for this ad. How generous is that? Maybe you have something you would like to promote. Maybe you have a book. Maybe you have a service or something, or maybe you just want to support a third party, a wonderful nonprofit maybe, or you want to do a wedding announcement or a happy anniversary. Here's your chance. The rates are so low, as you can see. Just email me, sree@sree.net, sree@sree.net. We'd love to have you support us and this little show. Then I can afford to pay our producers, and we can give you a better show. We have so many great people lined up to join us in the weeks ahead. You will not want to miss a single one of these episodes. We have the editor-in-chief of the Wall Street Journal joining us. Joel Lockhart is also going to join us. He's the former press secretary of President Bill Clinton. We're going to have authors. We're going to have more doctors and nurses and others joining us. Please check out the entire collection on YouTube. Sreenet is my YouTube account, SREENET, SREENET on YouTube. Please subscribe. And another way to know when I'm on the air is to take this, take a photo of this. This is my WhatsApp alert. It's not a WhatsApp group. You just take a photo with your phone if you have an iPhone, or if you have an Android, then you need to use your QR code reader. But you'll just get an alert when I'm on the air, and I would love to tell you because we've got so many amazing guests coming soon. We'd love to have you all join us. Mark is watching from Durham, North Carolina. Fernando says, want to participate on our LATAM and African Startup Accelerator course? Happy to learn more. Email me. I want to support as many people as I can. Any way that I can, I'd be so delicious. I'm so grateful. And Mark is just joining us back from a nature walk. If you missed this, you can just watch all over again right away. we'd love to have you join us. That would be great. And I do want to say that one of the things you have to do in these online shows is you have to reintroduce the guests you just had. Why? Because people are catching the end of this show and they won't know exactly who the guests were. So we've had obviously some terrific guests. And so now I want to tell you about the guests we just had. So I want you to watch the replay, which will start right now on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitter, and on LinkedIn. Alan Katz is an Emmy-nominated comedy writer and children's book author. Dan Gutman is an author of the My Weird School series at Dan Gutman Books, at Alan Katz Books. And Nancy Krulik is at Nancy Krulik, author of the Princess Pulverizer series. And Peter Lerangis is author of Throwback, the Max Tilt series, and 7 Wonders. Many, many thanks to our producers, Rose Horowitz 31 on Twitter and at Vandana_Menon. We are so grateful to you. I had such a great time today. I hope you did as well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody who will learn and share and talk is welcome on this show. Please tag your friends. Please send me speaker suggestions. You have my email address right on the screen. Would love to have you. I should tell you that one of the things I've been reacquainted with is my hairbrush. I have not used a hairbrush in 5-6 years. And now, because my hair is growing, I have to learn how to brush it. I don't have a lot of hair. Somebody called me follically challenged. I said follically failed. And my wife, who is wonderful, says that she still loves me without all my hair. And only I am conscious of it. She is not. So she's a great liar. And we love her and our families very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Email me. Next show, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time with Judge Aquilina, who put Larry Nassar away in the USA Gymnastics sexual abuse scandal. And 9 p.m. tomorrow, Tala Ben Shahar will be joining us, who teaches happiness, positivity at 9 p.m. Serious conversation, 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. reading the New York Times on this show. Whatever channel you're on right now, we will be back. Thanks very much, everybody. Goodbye, and thank you for your support. Very, very grateful.